There we go. Oh, the Sunday Millennial.
Right on set.
Oh, hello and thanks for joining us on the Sunday Millennial. Of course, I am your friend and host, Dave, the Millennial Moderator. We are joined tonight by Kyler.
Hey, David. Hope everyone's ready.
We're joined by Donald.
Hi, David. I got my my black cherry best yet seltzer. I'm ready to go.
I think you drank.
Double canning it.
You've drunk, right? That's the right.
Yeah, I'm pretty twisted right now. I'm pushing back. This is my second can. I'm
I
feeling
need to
pretty
get you another
woozy.
one. And I need another case, so getting low.
I think it's drink, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't need to get into this argument. Is it drunk? You've drunk
No.
too.
No, I drank. I
Drank.
drank
You
too.
drank. Damn. Okay, you've drank.
I have
too.
drunken before in the past.
Have drunk. I know that.
I have
one.
drunken. I have drunken seltzers in the past though.
And you've drank two already.
I had drank too. Yeah,
Got it. Okay. So you've drank two. Might need to
You're
take a
drinking
break.
one
and get
right now?
more.
I'm drinking one right now.
You drank him one right now.
Drinking.
Anyway, we also have CJ on the board. Welcome, CJ.
Hello, I'm not drinking anything.
Water, right?
Correct.
Carbonated water.
Yes. Carbonated.
I slur my words sometimes. No guests tonight. That's all right. Because we have a great show for you. We're going to get right into it, too. The topic for this episode will be about the food supply chain or the food supply system we have here in the United States. Now, if you're a faithful listener to this show or watcher, viewer, whatever you want to call it, you'll notice that we've done some episodes on food, agriculture, things like that. Recently, we did one on the meat industry, right? Correct?
Correct.
Not too long ago. Was that one recorded on video, by the
That
way?
was audio.
That
was season 4.
season 4. Okay. Just making sure. But it was soon. It was, not soon. It was recent.
Yeah.
Recent. So,
It was a juicy episode.
it
It was packed.
meat
Good
packed, right?
content.
Good meat. Good meat. That won't be particularly the focus, but a similar topic. So we were doing some research about this because the food supply industry has been getting a lot of scrutiny, a lot of press coverage because of the coronavirus. Like we've said now for the past season and a half, that the coronavirus obviously is impacting a lot of our lives and industries and systems and things like that. So the food industry is no different. So we did our research, a little bit of it. And I just want to ask you guys to start us off. What are some of the biggest flaws that you've seen in some of the research that you've been doing with our food supply industry, related or not related to COVID?
Well, one of the things I seen was that the ability for big food companies to deliver meat to just the consumer level, so like superstores and food markets. So right now, and since we had the last episode, the big issue was that it was impossible to feed and to substantiate the amount of meat that was meat at that time. But there's also other things that have been having an issue with getting to the plate. You can throw eggs in there too. Eggs hasn't had much of a shortage as say pork or beef, but when we did the podcast back in season 4, I think what was happening was right away they bought out all the stores right away. But now what they're finding is that they've been able to keep up with the demand, but the prices have gone up. So prices going up in certain areas and making it harder for people to get that meat. Actually, one of the things I've seen trending was that people to get meat have been going more regional, which is one of the things that people have been saying has been a benefit to this whole thing, is it's forcing people out of their normal buying manner to go and shop local, which is really cool.
And I think in some of the research, we found that the reason why it impacted the meat industry especially was because there's only about half a dozen meat suppliers in the United States. And
Processing
facilities, right. That's a big distinction.
FDA, USDA approved.
Right. That's a big distinction too. You know, the Hatfields, and we went over this in that episode, so you might want to watch that. But the problem was that those meat processing facilities supplied certain chains, big chains, Walmarts and supermarkets and things like that, restaurants even. And they were overloading those places. What's been able to curb it, though, is people going to, like you were saying, regional places. So I think that's an important distinction. And we'll get more into the regional aspect of it with some of the solutions and some of the other things too. I have a few other questions here, but that was a great point to bring up right away, Donald. I appreciate that. Kyle, have you found any flaws in the system in your research?
Well, just talking about, that flooding of the market. I remember, I think I bought a pack of chicken for like $1 or something. It was so cheap for that week or two when we experienced
gross.
that. Yeah. But also your point, there were a few countries that I saw were actually experiencing this inflation and this extreme inflation. So going to have to watch out for that. One thing I think that's interesting is the food sector and taking care of its employees, because you have so many people who are now out of work because of this. So that impact itself, I think we're starting to see kind of that indirect impact, not only on the food supply, but the people that are working the food supply. So, but that's one of the issues we're seeing, and how once that gets disrupted, how are those people kind of taken care of as well?
How can you keep them safe? Because they're handling our food. So it's very important that they're kept safe and the food's kept safe. So that's a very specific coronavirus or COVID-19 outcome of this, is that how can you like I'm just saying that's a distinction. So if we didn't have COVID, that might not be a problem. It's not a specific, it's a flaw specific to coronavirus. The other thing too is, I was talking to somebody who worked in the food industry in the aspects. She managed a kitchen for a school, right? So she worked the kitchen for a big school, high school. I asked her about kind of how her interactions with the food supply industry. And one of the things that she always told, they got it from one supplier. So they got all their food for the school from one supplier, big chain, like massive food production that brought the food to the school. And one of the things that she told me was it was very efficient. It was one of the things she said. She was very efficient. They put in the orders, what they needed, they got the numbers and they sent it into them and they brought it. It was very scheduled. It was just very efficient. So I think one of the flaws of the system we have is that it's almost too efficient. What happens if the supply goes down or the demand goes up, or, vice versa? It's not very flexible is what I'm basically getting at. That it's very efficient when things are at a somewhat normal level consuming food. So to me, when I was doing the research, I found that when there's these monkey wrenches that get thrown in, like the coronavirus or something else, market changes, it's bad because it's very efficient when things are running normal. You know how many kids you have to feed in the school. You know how much food you need. It's very scheduled. It's just super efficient, but it's very super efficient on a superficial level.
It'd be very interesting to see is now that we're experiencing all of this in this season. So it's summer right now. It's July, but we import a lot of foods too.
Correct.
In the off months of the year. So when we're not growing our own crops, I mean, this is less to a degree now than it was, say, 50 years ago, when we would have been consuming mostly what we would get here in the States. But in the winter, you could still have access to strawberries, blueberries, things that aren't in season, and they come from other countries.
Things in the southern hemisphere.
Right. So basically South America. So South America provides a lot for us now. I wonder if Corona kicks back up again, and instead of us being able to get blueberries from my mom's garden or from the local farmer's market, what's going to happen if we have to get them blueberries from a different country?
What about beef?
Everything, literally everything, right?
Because a lot of beef comes from Brazil. A lot of beef
Argentina. Yep.
Yeah.
Imports prices will go up.
They will, yeah.
We're probably experiencing like an okay amount of inflation now, but if meat prices go up by 20 or 30%, people are just going to have to start shopping for cheaper food.
Will people stop eating meat?
I don't know. It'd be a sad thing to see.
What would
very
you
sad.
do, Donald?
Very
See,
vegan.
guys, you can't even point at me and say, what am I going to do? Because I already have it thought of. I get my meat from a butcher every year, and they have cows, and I get half a steer. I'm good.
And they're from there, right?
Well, it's from Bloomsburg, which is...
Well, whatever. It's from
Right.
this area. It's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's regional. I shop regional for the past 3 years
Right.
since I've been able to buy my own meat.
So that brings up a good point. So have you found any fixes to some of these flaws? Now, we already talked about one. Donald, you can go more into it, too, with the regional aspect. And don't just talk about meat either. I know that's what you're going to talk about primarily. But we talked about this in that meat episode. But one fix might be shopping regional. So talk about that.
Well, besides meat, apart from meat, where we live in a fertile area where
We do.
mostly around where we live is farms. So if it's not agriculture, it's farmed for fruit, vegetables, and stuff like that. So what we get locally, we have been blessed that we don't have this direct issue, but it's more so in the cities, so we can't speak for that. But I know that in the off months of the year, so in the winter, I mostly eat frozen vegetables because you do get broccoli, you do get some things in the stores, but they're not as good. Potatoes are always there. I eat a lot of potatoes, but where I live, there is it's called Sturman Mossers, big potato plant, provides potatoes for a lot of the East Coast, and they ship and receive a lot of potatoes from different countries. But they get potatoes in, they go through shortages too. When that happens, it kind of bottlenecks what ends up in the markets where I live. So the two stores that I shop from, if say there's a shortage on potatoes, which has happened before, as weird as that sounds, potatoes can go into a shortage because of freeze or something like that. So in our area, if there's a shortage, say this upcoming fall, there'll be less of those things in the market, and I haven't figured out that solution yet. I'm good on the meat side. Yeah, I'm good on the meat side. I'll just go keto. I'll just go no carb. I'll just eat a bunch of beef. I got beef liver for days. We'll be fine.
Right.
But if it comes down to the fact that I can't have my Brussels sprouts, that's a whole new animal. I haven't had to have that problem yet.
It's different. It's a different concept too, because most meat products, whether they be chickens or cattle, they eat grass. Like they eat things that we don't eat, so they don't have to worry about, like, if there's a potato shortage, it's not like the cows are eating the potatoes. They're in meadows and things, like if they're free range. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, again, difference between regional and local, like kind of for free range, meadow raised grass fed cow and the ones that are in pens, different. But they don't have to worry about that. So different thing. If there's a potato blight, we don't have to worry about a shortage of cattle.
But also too, so CAFO, feedlot cows, they call them.
Yeah.
Feedlot cows, they still roam on grassland. So cows that
you told me about this earlier.
Right. So cows who and this is where a big argument comes into play, according to how people should be going vegan. It's not how meat's bad for you, it's how they treat the animals. So in the feedlot beef, the way it works is that the cows generally graze on pastures for most of their life, and then they fatten them up in a feedlot. So they live close
grass-fed,
quarters.
grain finish.
Exactly. For the most part, there are no cows that are all grain fed. Cows, you would go under trying to feed cows just grain. You'd have to feed them constantly. Cows eat all day long. They are subsistent feeders. They just keep eating. They keep going. So they eat grass most of their life. So yeah, we're not going to eat that. So we don't got to worry about a grass shortage because nobody's trying to eat that for the cows. But in the feedlot sense, where they're feeding them grains like soy and corn are one of the most heavily cropped foods in the world.
Yes. Between
South America and America. It is
and China.
And China everywhere. So I think that it is a possibility that could be a shortage there, but that stuff can be in silos for months and sometimes in cases half a year.
Yes.
Which, there's the argument that it shouldn't be sitting for so long. It can develop molds and stuff like that. They have to put pesticides on them so the bugs don't eat it. So it's not the healthiest way to feed a cow. However, that cow probably would be fine essentially eating mostly grass, and you could still get a cow out of it, but to fatten them up, then there could be an issue there. But
true.
Ironically, cows and back to meat would be less affected by this than the entire system, other than the fact that they processing facilities where humans have to actually
There's
process
that
the
aspect
cows,
of it too we don't think about. Yeah, which brings up to Kyle's point too about worker safety and things like that. So do you have a thought on a way to fix the flaw other than regional markets? And then I have a follow-up question to that too.
Yeah, I guess one thing is assistance from the government, but I'm also fixated on kind of the middleman. So the restaurant and, the businesses, the grocery stores, the big chain stores, like a Walmart, for instance, and how during this time, like these corporations, these big businesses are doing really well. They're able to stay open because they're essential. They have grocery stores in them as well as pharmacies, things like that, and they're doing it all. And what we're starting to see with them, and Walmart and these big businesses have done this already, they have, they're making hot meals. They have a place where you can go and you can get your own hot meals already prepped. You can go get pizzas there. So if prices keep going up for these small businesses, Walmart has cheap stuff. Not saying it's the best stuff, not saying it's that good, but cheap. So
good
some
stuff,
people
cheap.
might weigh that and see that as a solution. And what will happen is other small businesses, grocery stores start to close down, and even local grocery stores or even kind of restaurants are closed. They're making their own meals and they're serving them kind of, if you go down to, BG's and they have that hot little thing where they have sandwiches and even
Restaurant
little
takeout.
platters. Yeah. So it's
Bar restaurant takeout.
it's interesting how they're adapting, but you're seeing the big businesses able to adapt more because they have the means to do it. And
The
they have the money
resources
to do
too,
it.
yeah. Well, and that's going to get into the next question. But that would have been a perfect segue, Kyler, to go into this next question. But I thought of a follow-up question too, because I guess there's a good debate, a healthy debate on the regional focus, which Donald brought up, which I think is really important. And actually, in some of the research I found, and CJ might be able to substantiate this if he wants to, but there's actually been an uptick on regional and local market buying, essentially. People are essentially going to farmers markets to get their food. They're not going to supermarkets. There's actually an upsurge. So, but the debate can go now, should government intercede and essentially break up some of these companies like the ones you were talking about that supply the whole East Coast and internationally, and others, like a meat company like Hatfield or something like that. Should they break them up and say, should the government come in and say, you know what, you have to be regionally or geographically bound. So if you produce potatoes in Pennsylvania, you can only produce potatoes, you can only sell them in Pennsylvania and New York and Maryland and Jersey. So is that okay? Is that a good, healthy debate? Or should we just let it market driven? Meaning like, let the people decide where they want to get their food. And if they want to go regional, they want to go local, great. That'll change the market. So free market, people choose. Hopefully they choose the, local, regional. Or is this an opportunity for government to say, you know what, you gigantic companies who produce all over the world and all over the country, you got to stick to a region. Make it local.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, I'm always going to be on the page of, if you can get your food local, get it local. But when it comes to, controlling the companies that actually allow the buying and selling of it locally or, nationally, I don't have a good stance on what I think they should do. It's tough because I would say that it would be nice that you could have companies that only supply your region. That would be nice to say in saying it.
It would.
But for a company to only supply for 5 counties around them and not to be able to sell much bigger throughout the nation, a company like Stern Mossers, they sell to a lot of different suppliers. So they would probably have to cut their staff and they would have to lay a lot of people off. So
they have to lose money.
They would lose money, but then it would also cut down jobs. So you're
there's a risk and a reward.
Right.
But we do know of dairy companies, like we know of one here, right? We know the big producer, the dairy producer in this county, right? We all know it.
Gears.
Right. So they do fine. I'm sure they make a lot of money and employ a lot of people, but they don't. If you go outside this county, you're not going to see that dairy product anymore. You'll see Gallagher's or Swiss or whatever, right? So they already there is already that model in place, regional model where that's the main producer of milk or tea or whatever, So I'm just wondering, it's a good, healthy debate because it goes against American free capitalism in the sense that if you do that, you're not going to make as much money. Even companies like Yingling, right? We all know Yingling. That's right here where we're from. He only does East Coast. You can't find Yingling west of Ohio, but you can find it from Maine to Florida. Yeah. So couldn't somebody say to him, hey Dick, why aren't you getting Yingling out in California? He doesn't want to. He makes enough money. Like there's a good, healthy debate around it too, and that's his choice too, right? He chooses to do that. So there's that debate too. It's should the government force agricultural companies, producers of everything from potatoes to broccoli to meat to be regional? I don't know. I think it's a good, healthy debate.
It'd be very difficult to do that and to make it equitable across the board, and really hard to break up those big.
They're doing
businesses.
it with the tech companies. We'll have an episode about that too.
Well, yeah, but just also the interstate commerce thing as well. Like if you weren't to allow someone to, the free market, it'll be very tough to break that. Or if you would do something like, okay, to try to incentivize them not to sell it in this region, we might put a tax on it. Then they may use that as a reason to cut jobs or something. So
true.
In the long run, I think whatever the government were to do is going to look negatively on them.
It's a hard political battle. It'd be a very hard political battle. But we also do subsidize farms though, by the way, if you didn't know that. Heavily subsidized. So the government actually pays farmers money to say, you don't need to farm. Like we got enough food. Just take this money and, don't farm. So we already do that essentially. I think what I get from it practically, in a practical sense, I think we can do it. I think we can subsidize companies, food producing companies, whether it's meat or broccoli or whatever, and essentially restrict them to be regional. The problem is I think it's a hard political battle because you have this free market versus government intervention argument. It'd be very hard. Politically, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Practically, I think it's very easy.
I think the driver for that would have to be something outside of Corona, because right now it's let's feed the people. I don't think there's a, hey, let's worry about, cutting things up so that we can make sure that there's not companies making too much money. There's not companies doing this, doing that, because at this time there are people, according to the article that we read, 54 million Americans are getting less food than they were before all this happened because of either financial issues or sourcing issues. So right now I think it's something that if there's ever a time for the American eyes to get their eyes on something like this, it's now. But in this time, I don't think there's a right or wrong thing to do. I think it's more or less feed the people and then try to worry about the after the fact. Because I think in the case that we subsidize farms, the reason why they're so heavily subsidized is because grains drive America. When America started farming for corn and soy, however many years ago, it was one of the most heavily cash crops that we had. That and tobacco and all those, because we had such
Almost
fertile.
replace that, and cotton too.
Exactly. So the country, I think, was founded on farming in a way that everything is driven by that. Cows are fed with corn. Corn is in a lot of processed food. So I am not a direct consumer of that model. However, ethanol is made with corn.
Right. It's in everything.
Exactly. So it's like corn is being used so heavily for a lot of things. It's just become such a cash centralized thing that it's almost like cash. Corn in a way is like growing money. So for the United States,
it's very profitable.
For us to take now this is where I think we'd agree on is massive farming corporations. What's the one that I can't think of off the top of my head? They're Monsanto. Monsanto has their hand in a lot of different farms around the world, in the United States. I mean, and the amount of farms that they have and the amount that they monetize off of that crop, I feel like that's a company that could be split up and they could have monopolized sanctions on them. Like to split them up, I think would be smart because they provide East Coast to West Coast, Florida to Maine for corn. So a company like that, for how big it is, I think you could make the argument that they have had too much of a luxury for providing and monopolizing corn and crops and such.
That's true.
I have a solution for the Sunday Millennial. Let's start growing corn out back.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I mean, geez, financial problems are over.
I think you can only buy certain seeds from certain companies to grow it for profit.
It's crazy.
If you wanted to be a farmer right now and you wanted to grow corn for profit, you have to go through so many channels. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, I can't personally say that I've ever done that. I know people who have. But
I know people who've grown corn on their own property. CJ and I's dad used to grow corn, Yeah,
you can grow for home use. But I'll give you this example. Have you ever drove down farms in, Pennsylvania, you're driving the back roads, and you see a bunch of signs, really small square signs that have a seed number on them, and it goes row to row to row to row. That's because those seeds are licensed. They are literally property. Those seeds are property of companies like Monsanto.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a little too much bureaucracy, and I'm definitely not for that.
How wild is that, though?
That is wild. No, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now who are wondering, what are those signs for? Because you've seen them. Yeah, and I think you've even seen them with, wheat, too, or some kinds of grains.
All crops. Monsanto owns the seeds for so many different licenses, or so many different patents on seeds that were GMO, or they were developed to be this or developed to be that, and they own those seeds. You can't, if you go out and buy seeds and then you try to plant them and then make money off them, and depending on how you sell it, you have to provide proof of, I forget what it is. Don't quote me on the last couple parts of that, but I know there's a lot of red tape when it comes to selling corn for profit.
Yeah,
or in general, crops for profit.
That's a little ridiculous. I'm not for that. I don't like bureaucracy, and in that way I'm conservative, where I don't like bureaucracy too much. I think some of it's very good, useful, but a lot of it's just what the hell. But last point on this too, you were kind of saying how, Donald, about how it might be harder for companies to go from producing and providing internationally or around the country and getting people food. I really think you can make an argument, though, that if a company that produce whatever product, food, if they did it regionally, it'd be a lot easier and save them money because they wouldn't have to send it internationally. I would love to see, CJ, to look this up too. That'd be kind of hard, but how much money companies spend on sending their products internationally, producing it, sending it on a truck, and then sending it on a boat, and then sending it over. How much does that cost? I would imagine they would save money if they just worked in a geographical area. And I'm not talking countywide. I'm talking statewide. Like if they worked in a tri-state area, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, if they just provided for those states, how much would they save on transportation of the goods and workers? Yes, they might cut off workers. That's sad, but they're going to save. They're all about saving money. So I think if they stuck regionally, maybe they would actually make more. They'd also reach more people too.
It just shows how big these businesses have become.
Well, yeah, true.
So from the Wall Street Journal, this is about 2 years ago. It says companies spent a record $1.5 trillion on shipping costs in 2017.
Just saying.
And also,
just saying.
Before you said something about that you think people are going to be shopping locally and regionally.
Not true.
morningagclips.com, I think in June, posted, they say that the National Sustainable Agricultural Coalition estimates a loss in farmers markets annual sales of 10% to 25%.
Okay.
10% loss in farm-to-school sales and 20% loss in food hubs and restaurant sales due to coronavirus.
Okay. Well, then that guy we read about.
The estimated loss of $632 million to $1.18 billion to local economies.
Damn.
And there is no national platform to bring resources together for local and regional food systems.
Yeah. That's the big thing too, I think. But these companies can lead the way. I think, but again, it's the political battle is the hardest one. So we won't belabor it too much because I want to get into this topic. The next question that Kyler kind of brought up too, and it was a perfect segue. But do you see some of these options like Butcher Box, Blue Apron? Butcher Box just supplies meat, like raw, fresh meat to you to cook. Blue Apron is one of those companies that would actually give you a meal that you just heat up, like it's already prepared. Or like Grubhub, for example. There's another one too I can't think of. DoorDash. Companies like this. Are these apps, these companies, the future of food supply, essentially replacing the supermarket model? What are your thoughts?
Back when we had that episode and we talked about how coronavirus is going to hit, and we predicted that most companies are going to go to online and service sales like apps like DoorDash to deliver your food. I think it'll be a seasonal thing. Whereas the summer, people have no problem getting their stuff from a market or going shopping or going out because of the weather being nice. It's warm out. People don't need that necessarily. Coronavirus is a thing. People can still wear masks and go to the shop and shop for their food. But I think when this winter comes up and we see all of what Corona impacted over the last 4 months now, and that finally starts to come around and the cycle hits in, I think then in the winter, when and if we might have less of some things and people don't want to go shopping because maybe a spike in the virus hits, maybe that's when those things really shine. But I don't think it'll ever take away the actual brick and mortar going shopping for your food.
It's interesting
it'll
perspective.
never take it away.
I never thought of that too. That's a good point, Kyler.
I think it goes to a trust issue too. Like, do you trust these people who are bringing you your food? A lot of people are old-fashioned. They want to go do it themselves type of thing. So I think trust is another thing. Will that, play a role in it? Do people trust others bringing them their products, their produce, their whatever they're getting online, and do they know where it's coming from? So it all goes, I think, to that effect. But yeah, e-commerce is definitely, probably an uptick right now. And will it stay like that? Will stores continue to deliver? I think it's even the McDonald's here. A lot of these. Sorry, and I keep kind of jumping ahead.
I'm not giving you the questions next time because you keep jumping ahead.
No,
you're ahead of me.
No. What I'm saying is, like, some businesses are just going to the takeout model and they're being very successful with that. So they're just going to stick to it because now they don't have to hire people to clean inside their place.
True.
Right? So some have adapted and this is working perfectly for them. It's actually cutting costs. A lot of big businesses. And curbside's the other thing. Are small businesses and restaurants, grocery stores, are they adapting to maybe curbside pickup or
they have to
having
don't
delivery?
they?
But locally. So bigger businesses, bigger grocers can do that, but a lot of these small grocers, are they doing that? And if they cannot adapt, if this is the new way, that may be a struggle for them too.
Why can't they, though? That's the thing sticking on this, because I have other points to make. But sticking on this, though, I never understood that. Like, I was very happily surprised when I saw local bars, local restaurants doing curbside pickup. You call into the restaurant or bar and you say, I want your, filet mignon, whatever you want it, whatever they had on the menu. And you go and you pick it up and it's in a container and you go home and you eat it. The Firehouse does this. Like, why is that so hard?
a lot of local, okay, so
you want to shut down or do you want to produce?
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, if you were a small business like you're saying, and you had X amount of dollars in table sales, you sold food at table in a restaurant inside normal sales, and then you had X amount of sales from call-in orders. Just because you had those X amount of calls from call-in orders doesn't mean that when you don't seat those people that they're automatically going to go to the call-in orders.
True.
Right? So you're not going to make up for the amount of people not actually walking to eat. It's an experience. They're two different experiences.
Correct.
It's one of the many
people
now.
want to go out.
Yeah, one of the many experiences offered when you can eat something now. Not only can you make it, you can go to a store and buy something pre-made. You can go to a store and buy the ingredients and come back and make it. Or you can go and eat it in a store or a restaurant. But now you can order from restaurants. So you have all these options. So I think some places will thrive by just doing takeout because it might be that convenient for a place to just, and they might have had that business beforehand too. I think that's where one thing plays a big role in this is you had some very good form of takeout sales beforehand and you were well established. So this is where, like Kyler said, the adaptation of if you were meant to survive during this, takeout is your saving grace, but for some people it's not.
Great point.
Well, and here's the big difference. You look at a lot of stores, a lot of restaurants locally here in our town, and then you look at, maybe you go to Harrisburg, you have all the franchises, the Chili's, the Longhorns that have
Chick-fil-A.
so many places around the country that they already have a model for curbside, for takeout. They have apps that you use. So they have the resources and they're getting those from their franchise and they're able to use that and they're doing a more effective job than these local small businesses. And these small businesses have to learn to adapt without the resources that these bigger companies have. So
that's a great point.
That's the challenge.
Those are two really, really, really great points too. The other factor too is that, for the local businesses, especially if they were bars, most of their money, Donald, you know this for sure, that they make most of their money on the liquor, the alcohol sales.
Absolutely.
They do not make their money on the food. They make their money on the liquor.
What's funny is now bars are doing
even if they
takeout
did
for
do that,
alcohol.
they would be losing money for sure. Even if they had 100% people who used to come in and sit down and they got curbside, they definitely would be losing money because of alcohol.
But also some bars make a lot of money off of the gambling as well. So people sitting in there for long periods of time and gambling, that also helps their sales.
Which is a sticky thing for us, though, in Pennsylvania because we have weird laws.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Donald knows about this, but we have weird laws. Like, it's only allowed in certain places and not certain places. And it's the same with alcohol, too, though, right?
So one thing I'll touch on that because I've seen this a lot. So in Pennsylvania, we have games of skill. They're basically like slot machines.
Not games of chance.
They're not games of chance. No way, no, sir.
Big distinction.
But we have them in bars and we have them in convenience stores. So when Corona hit when Corona started to speed up and when everything closed down in March, up until that point, there was a healthy mix of people going to gamble in convenience stores, gas stations, and then people also going to gamble in bars and restaurants and stuff like that. But obviously when the bars and restaurants closed because all, unnecessary businesses had to close, everybody went somewhere else. So people gamble. People are addicted to gambling. People are fiends. So when people stopped playing in the bars, all of that business went to convenience stores. So convenience stores, since they're considered necessary business, have been soaking up every penny, not just from gambling, but from food sales, cigarette sales, alcohol sales, because
you're gambling in the convenience store and you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little tired. I want to go get a Red Bull. You'll buy a Red Bull in the store and you'll keep buying.
They are monsters.
Or whatever, a food or whatever they have there.
Is that what you do, David?
I don't do that.
They are absolute monsters.
They are. And that's a great point, too, I think, to point out. But that's a very unique situation in Pennsylvania. So we're very weird. Pennsylvania is very weird. If anybody's listening to this and been to Pennsylvania and not from Pennsylvania, you'll know that you can go into a convenience store or a grocery store and you can't buy alcohol. Unless that convenience store has sit-in dining. If that convenience store has sit-in dining, you can buy alcohol there. But not liquor, just beer and wine. Very, very strange. So, but we'll allow gambling. We're just a weird state when it comes to gambling and alcohol. I'll just leave it at that, though. But it has a factor into this too, as well. Even though it's kind of way off of what we're talking about. But I think CJ, you had a point you wanted to make.
Well, yeah, it's from Feeding America. It was a food bank in North Dakota, said that it had a 30 to 60% increase in the number of people visiting. Food bank has also seen an increase of more than 50% in attendance as its rural drive-through food pantries, which serve fresh produce and shelf-stable groceries to people in communities that might not have a full grocery store or enough volunteers or space. And it also says roughly 2 in every 5 people visiting a food bank are seeking help for the first time, as those who previously had a stable income are suddenly unable to put food on the table because of job loss or reduction of hours.
Very interesting. So I don't think a lot of us have experience in food banks. I've only ever been to one out in Pittsburgh.
I just see another one. The food bank opened drive-through mobile pantries in the hardest hit communities, which include areas that have seen large pantries close because of the pandemic. So
it's very interesting, though. Like I don't know. Have any of you ever been to a food bank?
Yeah, I was in one when I was in high school. We had help with one, so we were giving out food.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about, but I'm talking about like a gigantic one though.
No,
that was in a church, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I know you know that one too.
Yep.
We've all actually helped there. Actually, I know exactly what you're talking about. That was a small one in a church basement.
Yeah.
Okay. The one that I've been to in Pittsburgh was gigantic. It was a factory. It was huge, gigantic. So we have them here in rural areas, but mostly they're run through churches actually. So it's very interesting. But in cities, I think that's this point CJ was making. I think there's an uptick in them in cities, like legit gigantic food banks, because the cities are the most ones that are hit, and they're the ones that are more susceptible to food shortages because there's so many people, there's so much consumption, and there's no local food, there's no local market, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like here in rural America, because we're a rural perspective, we can go to a farmer's market or wherever to get that. So it's very interesting. We didn't talk about much about that, but it's interesting. And I just want to say too about the app thing. Kyler brought up a really good point too. But there's a lot of the big businesses are have a what do you call it? Advantage of the market. What do you call that? They're above the curve with doing the apps, right? So like
they've adapted. They're well adapted.
Your Walmarts, your supermarkets are very adapt to mobile marketing, curbside pickup, and things like that. So you bring up a really good point, Kyler. But the point I wanted to bring up about that was that since they're ahead of the game, is it easier for people to get used to that? Because that was kind of the question. The original question was, will you see ButcherBox, Blue Apron, Grubhub, or any other mobile app for Walmart or Giant or whatever, will you see that take over? And to me, I think it's yes, because people are more. You asked the question, do people trust it? Well, it's been out there before this, so people, I think, will trust it because it's already established.
I think whatever is easiest and efficient.
You didn't say convenience. That was the whole point. I was trying to get you to say it. I was
going
baiting
to say
you.
it,
I was
but
baiting
you jumped me. I was about to say it, and you took it out of my mouth. But
well, I'll have this question: is convenience a bad thing in this particular area?
I think if the convenience allows big businesses to eliminate small businesses, I think that is a bad thing.
Okay.
It's tough. It's like I heard the term a lot growing up. It's a dog eat dog world. So I guess only the strongest will survive in a situation like this. If there wasn't stimulus, if there was no stimulus checks and there was no business support. So when Corona hit, if you owned a business, you could apply for certain loans that some had a 0% interest, and in some cases you could apply for ones that were just grant money that was given to you as a business. So if those things weren't in place to exist, I'm sure even more small businesses would have went down than already had gone down. So it's almost as like if out of 100 small businesses, maybe out of, there's probably some small percentage of, once you can make it above water and you can thrive, you could probably subsist through something like this. But the other 90% or so, or whatever that ends up cutting to, just probably can't survive. They can't breathe in something like this, even with all that help. It's just unfortunately how things work. Like, how do you keep? And I've heard this term before. Our country can only walk as slow as the slowest person. So, doing that and trying to keep up with everything and trying to string everybody along through this, it just becomes you can't save everybody, right? It's impossible.
Yeah, it's sad. Well, yeah,
is sad.
in that way, it's sad, but that's the way our country works, unfortunately. Another factor I didn't even think of, and I just thought of it as we were talking, was Amazon. Amazon has done this too. They've bought Whole Foods. So now, I know people who buy their food, their groceries on Amazon.
But what if they
So that's-
buy some of those delivery services? And that's what's going to possibly.
We're gonna
it could
get into that
possibly
too, by the way.
happen,
This is a
that
show.
Amazon and these big companies could just buy out these food services, and then once they have the monopoly on it, then prices will go up, and so the convenience won't be as convenient as we thought. So,
Preview for the next show, It's amazing. Amazon went from selling books to selling everything. Literally.
controlling the world.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, the guy's worth 200. He's going to be the first trillionaire. I mean, that's another show. That's another show. But they do it too, though. They have their and the point was, I think people are used to it, though. It's not foreign for the idea of you ordering food online and having it come to you, or you picking it up, is not foreign. So I think the trust question that you posed, Kyler, I don't think it's a big deal. 10 years ago, that was like, who would do that?
Well, and our one friend, Matt, does this. He gets his groceries brought to him.
Oh, yeah.
He orders his food
Yeah.
online, gets it delivered,
Yeah.
and
Even smaller retailers like Giant, if you know, or
I
like
think the
they do
next
that
10
too.
years, this next generation coming up, I think more people will be more willing to do that. So it'll be a generational thing, I think. The next generation, what does that look like?
Which is sad too. And honestly, I guess I will pose this question. What does that do to people? Just think about it. Who knows how to cook really well, by the way?
I do.
I
Like really well.
Pop-Tarts,
I mean,
Eggos.
You know how to cook
okay,
very
so
well?
let me before I say I can cook really well, there are people out there that could do what I can do blindfolded
Right.
with one arm probably. But I think in the scheme of things, like you ever look at a cookbook and it says difficulty level, easy, medium, or hard, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident doing the medium to hard's no problem.
Okay.
Like I don't know what that means. I mean, I guess it's because I've learned how to read, which that helps, right?
That sounds
first step.
And
intelligent.
I can buy the groceries in a store, and then I have the olive oil, the salt, or whatever. So I don't know that.
You can follow instructions. Is what
Absolutely.
You're saying. That's a better way of saying it.
That's difficult for a lot of people.
It
Some
is.
people, yeah. So I mean, I can cook, but you're right. I seen this too, and I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. But I was listening to Post Malone and Joe Rogan's podcast today.
Oh, I want to listen
It
to
was
that.
so good. Okay, I don't want to say it's so good. You know what it was? It was watching two really high people
I was
drunk,
gonna say, I bet they were high as
talking
hell.
about things that were just like. I've had those conversations with my friends at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, where you're like all fucked up, and you're like, "Man, dolphins are crazy, bro." I mean,
They're so
that-
smart. They're
Yeah.
so smart,
Dude,
and they live in the water.
That's exactly the whole podcast.
Yeah.
We could do it. But on that podcast, they talk about it, how Joe Rogan was saying that this next generation. Well, they were talking about how Post Malone has a '92 Explorer, and they love classic cars, and how they love driving the
Nostalgic.
classic cars.
They're nostalgic.
But now they're talking about how Tesla wants to have a fully automated car where you just get in, press a button, it takes you to your destination. So that could be a very real thing in the next couple of years. But the generations getting used to that will only know that, right? So the more advanced we get, the more convenient things get, the less adept people are going to be doing the things that were hard in the past. And that's how everything is. There's things that we do today that our grandparents did that was harder and more, strenuous, like digging holes and stuff. Which
we
I
talk
haven't done
about
in a while.
you, me, and Brandon, who was on the show, and then Josh, our other friend. We talk about this all the time about how our parents, and specifically our grandparents, especially, they did everything. They could fix anything. They knew how to run businesses. They knew money. They knew how to cook. They just were men. I mean, like legit. I'm serious. No. They were,
Even the women.
I'm sorry. I should.
They were men.
They were. Yeah, someone's gonna take this the wrong way. They were complete men in the sense that they knew how to do everything. No, they did. They know how to.
Jack
they
of
knew-
all trades.
Thank you. I didn't say it the right way. I'm sorry.
I'm a
But
man.
you know what I mean, though. But they just knew how to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
They weren't single-minded. They didn't rely on convenience. They knew how to cook a really good meal. They knew how to fix a car. They knew how to work their job, make money, balance a check, run a household, raise their kids. They knew how to do everything.
It's
Go to
perfect.
church.
It's perfect. The older generations that know how to do all that are going to make a boatload of money off of the younger generations that doesn't know how to do any of that.
That's
So,
the point I was trying to make. Sorry
Right.
if I offended anybody.
I wanted to jump in here on the Tesla comment about the self-driving cars. Did you know there was a study done by Domino's? They had a self-driving car within like an oven. They put the pizza in and
Commercials for it, yeah.
It drove to the house. What the study was researching was not whether the pizza got there, but would people come out of their house and go to the car to get their pizza. Can you believe that?
What did they say in the study?
I didn't. That's the one that was being done. I didn't see the conclusion.
I
of it,
imagine
but
that more people
that's what they were looking for.
I imagine
those people would be okay with walking out and getting their pizza
and
rather than
I heard of the study,
their,
and I think what it found was that more people were susceptible or open or comfortable going to pick up the pizza in the self-driving car than they were to opening the door to a person and giving them the pizza. I think that was the study. It's crazy because people just are weird now with human interaction because we're so
everybody's out to get.
We're so like
not going to call you. Let me text you.
Yeah. Well, no, at
I
the
want
point,
to talk
don't
to you, but
call
let me
me.
text you.
If you need me, just text me.
Yeah.
Get the
That's
two buttons.
the point, though. People are so
Literally.
they would be more comfortable of going to a car that drives itself and picking up a pizza they paid for online than they would be to answering the door, be like, "Hi, it's Domino's. Here's your pizza. Here's your cash," and they're like kind of like in the door, like, "Get out of here."
Do you have to tip the car?
Anyways, right? Like, or what if it has a bill acceptor on it? You can just put a bill in it, pay it.
We'll see it.
I don't know.
We got way down there, but it's important, and we're going to talk about it more because we're going to do an episode on some of these big tech companies because there was a big debate in Congress, a House panel investigating some of these companies and antitrust. So we talked about breaking up regionally big food companies. Well, there's debates on Congress about breaking up the big tech companies. So stay tuned. But we'll get back to the debate. And the last question here is, you've teased it a little bit. Kyler was jumping ahead of the game a little bit. But with fast food, we talked about it a little bit here, but we'll really get into it now. What's fast food? How do they fit in all this? What's their end game? Are they going to take over the business, essentially, of food supply? I wanted CJ to look up some stats, too, about consumption of fast food. So are more people consuming fast food in the pandemic or not? Is it increased or downcreased? So CJ can get to that. Decreased. Is it downcreased? Decreased. CJ can get to that in a second, but just your thoughts about fast food and all this.
I think delivery just helps them because it's fast food already. They get their food. They can they have someone else. They can outsource that delivery so they don't have to do it. And they're faster than restaurants at making their food. So obviously not the healthy option, but once again, people like
convenience.
There you go. So, but like I said earlier, McDonald's and some of these businesses are now like, well, this takeout is great. This is actually our business has grown due to the coronavirus, and they don't need those kiosks because those weren't working out so well in the stores.
Just a shame, by the way.
People, coming in
and hilarious too.
So now they can honestly get rid of that aspect of the store.
Yeah. Well, that's surprising too with the kiosk thing, and we'll get Donald's opinion. But I was always surprised about that. I actually thought that would fit in great with coronavirus. So you could actually come into the store like you normally would. You want to come in and you want to go in, and you don't even have to interact with really someone at the desk at the whatever. You can just boop 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 and get your meal, and that was it, and you leave. I thought it would work great for...
That was in stores for years before Corona, right?
True, yes, it was. And, the only place I really know of it, though, is McDonald's. I don't know. Burger King, I don't think had it, or maybe... I don't think Wendy's
I'm thinking of, like, Sheets and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
that for sure. But
yeah.
that's always been a staple to, like, Sheets and Wawa's, though, I think. That's always been a thing.
Well, then,
McDonald's
took
has
that,
it, and they have really big kiosks, like 2 of them.
Yeah, what's funny is I was in Italy a year and a half ago now, and when I was in Italy, they had... you could go up and order, but it was all kiosks everywhere.
They only have like one line. When I was in the UK, it was the same way. They have like literally one line for the McDonald's, and there's like 8 or 9 kiosks.
Oh wow,
that you order.
It was actually pretty cool. Actually, one of the nicest McDonald's I've ever been in my life was in Italy. It was beautiful. Like, I don't know what they're doing over there, but it was when I was visiting my cousin. He was in the Marines, and we were on the little rock there at the boot. Sicily. We were in Sicily. We were in a McDonald's at one of his bases, and it's like in the city, and it's like all cobblestone streets. Like if you picture like a typical European, like everything's really old and it's beautiful. And we're walking, and you see the Golden Arches, and it's kind of tucked in with a couple other businesses, and it's like in a row. And you go to the door and you open it up and you walk in, and it's like really high ceilings, and you walk deep back into it, and then it's a dome. When I say a dome, I mean like the entire thing is a big circle, and that's where we sat and ate. You can order in there, and it was gorgeous. Like we ate McDonald's the entire time I was there, and it tasted amazing. Like I don't normally eat fast food. I just took the bun off. I ate the burger, but it was like I felt like I was in a bougie McDonald's.
You always hear that about people too, Americans who I've been to one other country outside the U.S., but I've never been to Europe. But you often hear that people from the U.S. going to other countries, and they eat like fast food from McDonald's, and it's like this outer world experience.
I knew they had a McDouble. It's convenient.
Wow. Best thing that
Order on a
wasn't.
kiosk.
What's the best Italian thing you had there? Because don't they every country has their own like unique thing in the menu?
You mean like what style of food was there the most
Yeah.
delicious? Or I mean, so I had pasta over there. It was really good. They do it like a more al dente style. Like this is where we had it when I was in Sicily. It was some little tucked in spot. We drove up north because we were going to check out some like older like sculptures and stuff like that in the north end of the island. And on our way up there, we stopped at this little Italian place, and I could have had one place over there, and I would have said it was better than everywhere over the United States. But I ate it, and it was good. But I wasn't like, man, they know how to make Italian food way better than America. It's just really good. Like, you think of the best Italian place you ever had in the States, that's about what it tasted like. But then again, I'm not a big foodie, so I didn't sit there and I'm like, oh, perfect amount of olive oil, that salt, I ate it and it was really good.
It was really good.
It was really good. When I say something's good, it's like, wow, that's really good.
Best place in the UK? That was not like in the UK traditional food. What was the best thing you had?
I don't know. When I was
Bangers and mash?
When I would say bangers and mash when I was in Ireland.
I said it wrong.
I would also say lamb shank is really good. So it's just a big bone with a slab of meat on.
Yeah.
And it's just so tender.
They eat a lot of lamb.
A lot of lamb. Lamb is very good.
They eat a lot of lamb over in like Nordic states, like Ireland, Finway, Norway.
I've had lamb before, but I never had it in country of a place.
Very good.
I definitely have to try it if I go to UK, which I do want to go to. It's on my bucket list. UK and Germany for sure. CJ, you would have stat.
So this is from the Post-Gazette. A nationwide survey by Top Data tracked Americans who ate out from March, when the novel coronavirus was just starting Western PA, to July 1st. The data, based on cell phone tracking, showed that the number of visits nationwide to casual dining restaurants dropped 80% from March 1st to April 1st, while visits to fast food restaurants dropped 50%. By July 1st, casual dining nationwide was still down 40%, while fast food was down only 25% from the 2019 average.
Okay.
Interesting.
So
And
super drop, then picked up, I guess, or got less.
And Megan Harmon, 32, was in line at the same Chick-fil-A and said she eats out more now than before the pandemic. But she also is trying to cut back to save money, she said.
Oh, wow.
She says she chooses the Chick-fil-A drive-thru for its convenience and healthier food.
Have you ever sat?
I like the grilled chicken sandwich. I feel it's like more healthy than the cheeseburger.
Oh, my God.
Have you ever sat at Chick-fil-A drive-thru?
Oh,
Yes.
forever?
Dude, I feel like I've only ever sat in drive-thrus that took an hour.
Yeah.
But when you order, though, it does go pretty quick.
Yeah,
Once you get your order in.
It's
then-
always
yeah, but
packed.
the parking lot,
thing is,
it's
always
like that
packed.
snake game you used to play on your computer when we were kids. It's like that for like the entire. They had no cars in the parking lot.
They
It was
have
just
people
traffic.
like waiting in line to like take your order too. You know,
Yeah, I've
people
seen
like
that.
in your car, like
Oh.
out. Like,
I would
You,
hate-
you guys have been to In-N-Out Burger in LA, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
How about those lines?
That takes a while.
Actually, no.
We waited like almost an hour to get
No.
We waited an hour for ours. In,
You. So my In-N-Out experience, I didn't go when we were out in LA. I didn't go to that one. You guys did.
Word.
I was
we
like,
went there like 3 or 4 times.
but
and it was really good.
I had
it tastes
In-
like Five Guys to me.
I had In-N-Out in Arizona.
Five Guys is better, I think.
I think so too.
I have a funny story
It's
real
the same
quick
to me.
that I want to
It's the same.
say. And David's going to maybe be upset by this.
Probably.
But me and my friend, it was the last day we were there, and the guy picked us up, and we're like, yo, could you go through In-N-Out Burger for us? So we're going through the drive-thru, and the guy's like, he didn't know if he wanted to bail or not because it takes for a while even through the drive-thru. And it must have taken 45 minutes, and the guy was getting so upset. And you could tell he's mad. We're like, my buddy was like, we'll tip you really well. We'll take care of you. And he's like, well, I'm going to pick up this other guy. So he calls this guy, and he says, yo, I'm stuck in traffic. He told me he's stuck in traffic. So I ended up seeing the guy's name on the thing, and so we get to our location. Here, that guy was picking up David.
Oh my
And
God.
The guy, I saw the name on the guy's phone. It said Dave or David, and I'm like, I was just thinking, I'm like, that probably isn't, but it was actually David, and David was like asking his brother, how long does it take to get over here? And it's like not 45 minutes, that's for sure.
It was so close.
But it also shows you like where he's at. So he
Yeah.
was probably just on the map right there on
And
Sunset.
guess what? I was going on a date.
Aw.
So it was really frustrating for me because I was going on a date. Like I was meeting somebody for brunch and over in Burbank. Or
Sorry,
no,
David.
Studio City. It was Studio
Did
City.
it work out? Did you end up marrying her?
Nope.
No.
Great girl though. But yeah. Anyway,
Hey, we never on the podcast.
she's in California.
So get on the East Coast. People are dying out on the West Coast. You'd save her life.
Maybe. But it's interesting that I never had In-N-Out Burger in LA though when we were out there. I had it in Arizona, and there was no big lines in Arizona. I had it in Tucson.
You aren't doing it right.
It's
You aren't
just-
doing it right if you
it's
don't
just
wait in the
good.
line
Like
for
what?
it.
I don't know. I guess In-N-Out Burger is just like trending, but it wasn't like I ate it and it was. I was like, oh my god. See, once again, I'm not a foodie. I said that earlier, but I enjoy a good burger. I'm a big meat guy, so when
Yeah.
I ate that, I was like, this is a really good cheeseburger. That's what I said. I was like, wow,
The
this is a
In-N-Out?
really good cheeseburger. Yeah, In-N-Out.
Oh.
And it was pretty expensive too. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like that cheap. It was like I felt like I waited for an hour to get like a pretty expensive cheeseburger.
Did you get the
that I
gigantic
could've-
one or like the
I got
normal
like the
one?
big. It was like a double or a triple.
Gotta get
whatever
the
you-
triple.
Triple. I think it was
My
triple.
God.
It was good.
Perfect amount of meat. Triple.
No, I go.
They're
I
not
go
that big of
small.
patties. Do you ever get like a baconator
Size
from,
matters, small.
from Burger King? Like a triple baconator? Now
No.
that's a good time. Once
No,
again,
my,
I take the
my
buns
acid
and I,
reflux would be
That's
like
like a heart attack on a stick.
Yeah, my
See,
acid reflux
people
would
say
go
that,
crazy.
but I don't know. I haven't died yet.
Because then I would drink it with soda. You wouldn't. You probably drink it with water.
Yep.
But I drink it with soda, so my acid reflux would go like through the roof if I had a triple baconator from Wendy's. Dave's triple. Yeah, I don't
Want to
think
go to
so.
Wendy's?
Yeah. We'll do that.
We're going to
afterwards.
Wendy's after this.
Yeah, but honestly, I think to me it was good at In-N-Out, even in Tucson. But I don't see much difference between that and Five Guys. To be honest with you, I agree
like
with
Five
Kyler.
Guys better, and their French fries are. Oh my god,
French
Five
fries
Guys
are
way
fries-
better. Way
'Cause they make it in like pig fat or something, or
No,
peanut oil.
peanut oil.
Peanut
Peanut
oil.
oil.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fries are the best. Yeah, and fries make a great burger, by the way. I don't care who you are.
Well, they had the Old Bay seasoning too, and I'm a big Old Bay guy.
Mhm.
You know what my favorite Old Bay seasoning is? The French fries. I think it's Fuddruckers. You know
Yes.
Fuddruckers.
Yes.
They put them down to the Philly Stadium and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
I love it. So fast food industries are taking over.
As we're like
Yeah,
talking about
we
how
just-
great they are.
It's terrible that people have to go there. It's convenience, not healthy, and then we're just buttering them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a hold though. They have a hold, I think, on Americans especially.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
And actually, you can even compare it to other countries. So, like you were saying, how it's great in Italy.
it was really good.
Here, it's like they don't care about the quality; they care about the quantity. They care about the money. How many
Yeah.
people they can stuff in there? How disgusting their bathrooms are. They don't care as long as people are buying their burgers.
There was
It's
one.
all right.
There was one.
They'll like redo it every like 5 years, right?
Yeah.
They always redo the design of the store every 10 years. Or
We did
whatever.
go to a McDonald's when we went to see the Vatican. When we were in Rome, we ended the trip in Rome. And when we were in Rome, the whole trip we were just like, we couldn't speak Italian. And most of the places in the city were like, they spoke English, but it was broken English and it was really expensive. And everyone ate weird times over there. Like they would eat at like 10 o'clock in the morning and then like 8 o'clock at night. And like some restaurants were open from like 7 to 11, and then it'd close from 11 to 3, and then it'd be open from 3 to 5, and then they'd be open from like 8 to 12. Like it was, we'd go to a place and they'd be closed, and it'd be like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we just kept eating McDonald's. So we had McDonald's again in Rome, and we went to a super nice one when we were in Sicily, amazing. And then when we went to Rome, we went to one that was like you had to go down some steps into like a basement, and it was tiny. Like there was enough room to like order your food, and then like one table behind you, and then that was it. And there was 4 windows, and people were stuffed in there, and that was a terrible McDonald's. So
Yeah.
that McDonald's in Rome didn't impress me. But if I only would have had the McDonald's in Sicily, I would have said that they know how to do McDonald's over in Italy. But they have shitty ones too.
I wonder if there was certain laws in Italy or in Rome, especially, that like they protected local businesses. You actually see this a lot. And
Oh, you
especially
can't. If you're a business in Rome when we were over there.
Yeah.
So Rome, the city itself hasn't changed in a long time. Like they don't allow businesses to come in
Right.
to gentrify it, to build up buildings, to tear down things.
corporize it.
It's very historic. So they don't let anyone touch the city. So if you go to Rome, you'll notice that none of the buildings are more than like 9 or 10 stories high. Like the biggest one's like 10 stories. You know what I mean? You go to New York, you can't find a 10-story building until you get out of Manhattan. So it's like the difference is obvious that it's more market driven in America, whereas over in Rome it's much more
historic cultural driven.
Yeah, so everything was like street vendors, food that was, and very old buildings. Every building over there was at least older than me. It was,
I wish more cities embraced that. I wish in
it
towns.
was super cool.
Yeah, I wish because it sucked to go to McDonald's, but you won't get a Rome experience if you don't get food from a vendor, right?
True.
But it's funny though, because there's actually some towns in America that do that. Jim Thorpe. You ever been to Jim Thorpe?
Yeah, yeah.
Jim Thorpe in America, and not actually technically not in this county, but close to us. They have local laws where they don't allow chain restaurants. So a lot of their stuff in their area, because it's a tourist town. It's the same model as Rome is, where they want to keep the cultural authenticity of the city and not allow a McDonald's to come in and like bulldoze and like make their corporate thing.
I'm pretty
there.
sure there's a Subway there, though. There is a Subway there.
Interesting Subway, because there's
It's
a
in a gas
Subway in
station.
Jim Thorpe too.
Gas
Subway might
station.
have a unique thing where they don't.
Maybe. Well,
I don't-
it's super small. Maybe that's why.
But it's interesting though that there's a cultural sensitivity to having this is Jim Thorpe, and they have these local businesses that have been there for 100 years. A candy shop, an ice cream shop, a restaurant. They don't want those places to be there, and so does Rome. They only want certain people to be there. It's interesting. I kind of wish more places were like that, because I think there's a homey feeling to it. When you go there too, you want to experience the whole thing. You don't want to go to Rome and go to McDonald's. I know that unfortunately that happened to you, but that's because their timing's off. Our American timing is off from their timing, so it just happened that way. But you don't want to go to Rome and go to McDonald's, or London or Dublin and go to Burger King. What the hell, or Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I
You want to
usually
get the real experience.
I usually like checking those places out just to kind of compare them, as Donald said. But yeah, just in Pennsylvania itself, people love going to small mom and pop shops, and that's kind of what it's about. So.
Especially here too, because we have our own culture. We have a Pennsylvania Dutch culture, so people want to go to, the Dutch kitchen, or things like that. They want to actually have that experience. It's kind of been ruined by corporate food businesses like the McDonald's and all those other things, Walmart and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's very sad. And actually, I think it's a lesson to a lot of rural places that have their own culture, like Pennsylvania Dutch or wherever you want to come from, and how places can come in and take over and make it something else. It's sad, really. So I think that, do we decide if fast food's going to take over or not take over?
It's up for debate still. Probably. I don't think they're going to make it illegal anytime soon, or they're going to put sanctions on them. You're not going to see McDonald's go away.
I think they're going to have a
Gonna ban
bigger
it?
influence on us. Just look at the end of the latter part of our podcast.
Yeah,
They're going to have a bigger influence.
Well, CJ gave us
on
some of the stats
country.
and that it was down. So I honestly thought it would have been up. I guess.
But it's better. It's better than
True.
restaurants and other
Still, yeah.
things. So
Well, I guess it was down 50% in March, but then it was only down 25% in July. So it seems like it picked back up. That's fascinating to me. I think if there was a stat that CJ rolled out, I think that was the most fascinating one. I would have expected it to skyrocket. I would have thought people would have taken the coronavirus in the past 6 months and would have said, I'm just going to go to McDonald's. I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A. I'm going to go to Burger King. I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to order out. I'm just going to go there. It's convenient, as the person said in the article. It's interesting. But it's been a good debate. It's been a good talk. We'll wrap this up here with final thoughts. Donald, you want to go first?
Sure. I just want to say I really appreciate this podcast. I think it's good to make people aware that the change in our food system is a way to also notice what you're doing for yourself to feed yourself and your family, and how you can make a huge impact on not only the market but local economies by shopping local and buying regionally. And there is a sense of ownership over giving money to people in your area and supporting your community, which sometimes you overlook. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just go to, a convenience-driven place like McDonald's or Chipotle and, give food to, or buy their food. But, when you go and you buy a half a steer, or if you buy, vegetables or fruit at a local market, you're supporting people that you may know and may have an impact on you, in another way, maybe through school or something else. So I just like the idea that, we touched on the regional aspect of things.
Yeah.
And I hope that people decide to do that.
Yeah, really good. Thank you for that final thought. Kyler, you're next.
Yeah, so we lost an American icon earlier this month, and his funeral was Thursday. R.I.P. to Representative John Lewis. John Lewis helped organize the March on Washington and was a part of the Freedom Riders in the Deep South during the Civil Rights Movement. He fought for civil rights for African Americans through peaceful protest and civil disobedience. He was a member of Congress for the past 33 years. We thank you for your service and for risking your life time and time again to stand up for racial injustice and what democracy and change is all about. A quote from John Lewis: "If you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something about it."
Wow. Yeah, we lost the legend for sure. May he rest in peace, and maybe always remember his legacy for sure. And going off that that quote from him, maybe we can speak up against some of the wrongs I think that are being done in our food industry and how we get our food, how we access our food, how it's accessible. We didn't touch on that too much, but a little bit. But it's been an interesting debate, an interesting topic. A lot of stuff revolved around the people who own and operate and produce our food products and how we get it. It's sad to me, I think, in our discussion that we're only talking about it now when it comes to the coronavirus. But I know there's people out there who have gone to school or for sustainability or agriculture. We have a lot of people that listen that work on farms, have worked on farms. CJ and I come from a family of, and Kyler come from a family of farmers. So we know what that's like. We know the hard work that goes into it to provide food for people. So it's an interesting debate. And we'll see, does it rely more on government intervention and making it more regional, as Donald was saying, or do the people make the choices to buy from their local markets and things like that? My hope for our debate and our discussion is that people will. It's very beneficial for you to buy your products, your food from local markets, farmers markets, things like that. If you live in regions like we do in rural America where those are available, make use of them. You're supporting them, and you're getting a lot better health, a lot better food that's healthier for you. And here on this show, we're all about being a better you. So that's our show. Stay tuned, stay happy, and we'll see you later.